Nothing, I mean nothing, would possess me to step into that swamp.
If the designers of this game are truly virtuoso, benevolent, just human beings, this character will step in that swamp. That is the only just way of reacting to that comment he just said. You're going to witness a classic point-and-click adventure game phenomenon. The phenomenon being characters, all characters in every adventure game that I've ever played have black hole pockets. Pockets with endless capacity. Observe. Look at the size of that. And look where it went. That thing was clearly long enough to reach all the way down past his knee. Yet it just miraculously fit into his pocket. That is a phenomenon of adventure games. And there's a game called Deponia where they actually kind of paid tribute to that in a satirical way. That's what I would do if I was him. Now prepare yourself to witness another of the phenomenon. I'm going to pull this thing that's the size of my body out of my pocket. Yep, that's completely adventure game status right there. that was eerily quiet. No sound effects for the boar chasing after me and me dodging and everything. So that was a puzzle that I just barely solved, and it required me that I did exactly what I showed you. But to get to the point of being able to do that, this is what I had to do. I had to walk through a swamp, get one of the reeds, take the dart that I acquired in the very beginning of the game, try to fit it into the reed, realize that the end of the reed is too narrow, too small for the dart to fit. I would then have to poke the reed into this hole where I presumed a creature lived. The creature would then bite that narrow part off. Then I would be allowed to fit the dart in there. Does that sound like a string of logical events? Sometimes I have no clue anymore. Sometimes it's just let my imagination go and let it just follow the game and not be too analytical. Please excuse me as I indulge my guilty pleasure of becoming an English gangster.
Hi, George Stillborn.
Hello, mate.
You're English, right?
Oh, you don't miss much, do you? Bert Savage.
How long have you been in the movie business?
Flipping years, mate. Absolutely flipping years. Straight up. Drove at me with a car. I was up on the bonnet and over the other side before I realised he wasn't stopping. Mind you, there were plenty of people who could have done her in. What's that, mate? Stone axe?
No, it's just a piece of polished stone.
Very nice indeed. Shine it up a bit, you get a few bob for that. Replace me? Lummy, this could be the last stunt I ever perform. What cave? That cave? You must think I'm balmy. I did me back in being chased by them hornets over that flaming stockade wall. They had a Clacton. Bloody smashing. A pint of jelly deals washed down with a bottle of brown. Quick feel on a big wheel and a stroll around the town. Course, them days, you could live like a flipping king on 10 bob a night. Tombola, Frothy coffee at the cafe or the prom.
You know, I don't have the faintest idea what you're talking about.
If this game represents the global English community, now it's a big if. I'm not saying it does. I'm not saying it doesn't. Prefacing it with a huge ass capital both I and F if this game does, then there is an opinion that English from England, specifically the English that's intriguing me, is difficult to understand, as illustrated by the previous clip and the following clip.
I was talking to Mr. Savage, the stuntman. Is he all right?
What makes you say that?
He's not making any sense.
The guy's English.
Now, regardless to how the world perceives this type of English, I love it. And since my goal is not to scrutinize it, but to become a gangster, I must internalize it all. What I got from Bert's, just the plethora of slang he was throwing at me, was first I got blimey, flippin', bonnet, mind you, bob, loomy, barmy, did me back in. Now blimey I've heard. I guess I was gonna say blimey is the equivalent in my vernacular is, well, gol darn, maybe. Flippin'. I've heard flippin', but I've never heard it in this context of flippin' years. I've been working at this job for flippin' years. I've never heard it that way. So that's a new way of saying it. I like that though. Bonnet, I've heard that, the hood of a car, I've heard that before. Mind you, I'm familiar with that, but I want to start using it. I like it. It's very direct, but it's polite. That's the interesting thing about this is you can become an incredibly polite and gentleman-like gangster. I like it. Bob, never heard of Bob in the place of money. That is the most interesting term to use for money. Got me a lot of Bob. I just like it. Lummy. I've never heard that. L-U-M-M-E. He said it when he was kind of considering what's going to happen next. Oh, goodness. This is going to hurt me. Lummy. I've never heard that. I'm going to use that more. Barmy. You take me for a barmy. You take me for an idiot or something like that. Never heard that. And then did me back in. Basically, I hurt my back. But it's so much more interesting to say did me back in. It makes no sense. I hurt my back is much more clear and concise, and anyone can understand it, which is why did me back in is not going to reach the ranks of global English, because there's too much to understand that just non-native speakers trying to learn, they're not going to learn that and then try to walk out into the world and say it expecting to be understood. They're going to speak much more globally understood English. So obviously that's the reason why a lot of these things don't make it to the global English level, because they don't make logical sense. Did me back in, yeah. But I'm beyond that. I want to become a gangster, and so I gotta figure this shit out. I have a creepy confession to make. The following sequence turns me on in the most eerie of ways. Similar to how Tomb Raider, in every Tomb Raider game where there's rope swinging, I don't know why, but whenever I see Tomb Raider swinging on a rope, that motion of going back and forth on the rope just does this mental stimulation that goes straight to my crotch. I don't know what it is. I can't play those scenes for a long time because I get too aroused. And here, I get even more aroused.
We were going to need the stone.
Watching just this following scene.
It was the Jaguar stone, all right.
The way her body moves like that, I don't know why. It's freaking creepy, isn't it? She's being killed, but the way she like sways and stuff, it's weird. until she dies. Right now, I'm not turned on. Every motion up until death is quite exhilarating, but I haven't, my kinkiness has not transcended to the levels of death yet. Who knows? Who knows what the future holds for me?
Who's playing Jim Hawkins?
Haiku McEwen. Oh, don't tell me you've never heard of him.
I don't go to the movies too often.
Jeez. Haiku is only the hottest teen star in Hollywood. That's why we're on such a tight schedule. Gotta film the close-ups before he hits puberty.
Hey, Haiku,
Yeah, man. You got something to show me?
I'd like your opinion on something.
Yeah? What?
Would you like a bun?
No way, man. I have to be careful what I eat.
Yeah. Never eat anything smarter than yourself. What do you think of Haiku McEwen?
What's to think? The kid will have earned more by the time his balls drop than I'll earn in a lifetime. Good luck to him.
I wonder if all these references this game is making towards Hollywood or Tinseltown are, I wonder how accurate they are. Because what we've witnessed is the main star is a teenage heartthrob. And clearly the character, George Stobar, has deduced that he's an idiot by him saying, don't eat anything smarter than yourself, referring to the bun. Is that accurate? I don't follow this that well to know how accurate it is, but if I were to use outside sources to gauge what Hollywood would be, then I would have to deduce that a lot of Hollywood actors are stupid from this. And that's all I have to say about it. I wonder why I even thought this was important to include in this video. So we find ourselves here again. Now I'm not going to record another video of me talking about how horny this scene makes me. I'm recording this scene again to show another purpose. If you remember, priorly I died. I was so enthralled and entranced by the movement of her body that I let her die. Now I want to show this again, but I'm going to show it from the point of view of something that's called a quick time event. Quick time events have been under scrutiny for a long time, ever since the God of War franchise, for being really, not ever since the God of War. There's actually another game that basically ran some game on Dreamcast, forget the name, Shimoa, Shimu, Gimu, some type of game on Dreamcast where the entire game was like basically quick time events. But they have been scrutinized as being pointless, boring, useless. No game should ever have them. If you skewer the YouTube most popular YouTube channels, people will always just dog them. And now I get why they're stupid, because it's a way that people interrupt, videos in games and kind of jolt the gamer back into the game, jolt the player back into the game in a very, in a very obnoxious way. But I think they can be done right, and I think that this following sequence shows a quick time event that was done right. And because you remember, I only have a certain amount of time before I have to do this act. Now, quick time events, the typical way is just you have to push a button. And yeah, that's kind of stupid. But this makes sense because it actually has something to do with the storyline. I'm getting choked, and I only have seconds before I die. That is very accurate to the scenario. If I was being choked in real life, I would only have seconds before I'd die, so I'd have to act quickly. Hence the quick time event. And that's how they are presented in other games, but it's just like a series of buttons you have to push, and it just doesn't really feel enthralling. But in this one, I really think they did it well. And
We were going to need the stone to thwart Karzak.
and I really think if we could learn from this to include them
Was the Jaguar
in a much more
stone,
accurate
or
way. See, I'm being choked. If I don't do this real quick, I will die. So in this sense, it's a very accurate way of including a quick time event. The only issue is, I can't believe how silent those guns go off. That was, I don't know why they didn't include sound effects there. That seemed like they were just rushing that scene.